We're getting down to the end of the year here, if that's when you happen to be watching it, but that's the mode I'm in. Um, and so just thinking back a lot to what's been going on, what I've been working on, and what I've been doing a lot of this last month is listening to a lot of calls, which I love to do, and you guys know that. So uh, the one thing I want to go into is right what I'm going to go into the single biggest mistake being made on all the calls. And what I want to do is keep this high level because I could go into different parts. And this is what I was doing in preparing for this video today. Yet when I started going into the parts, I kept going, it comes back to this one thing. So yes, there are steps to be followed. Yes, there is a process, right? The art and science of selling in healthcare, right? All that stuff. But you know, it really comes down to the single biggest mistake. And it's interesting because, again, this flows back from that, well, I care, right? People always want to tell me, I beat this dead horse, right? How much their front desk team cares. Or when I ask front desk team members, right, like to tell me the attributes and the skills they bring to this, they always, within the first one or two, well, I care. I got to tell you, man, it just doesn't. Yes, that's a box to be checked, but it doesn't translate into much of anything on its own because caring can come through on a phone call with someone at the end not having any idea how you can help them. You can be caring on a phone call and not make anything about the person on the other end. This is what's funny. And it'd be like, well, what do you mean by caring? Well, I listen. And it's like, but the other person hung up without understanding how your company could help them specifically. So the single biggest mistake being made over and over on these phone calls, and if you wrote this down and then had your workflow from this, you'd probably solve a lot of problems, is it's this you versus me problem, right? And I'm going to use me as the person answering the phone. So when I say you versus me, right? So I pick up the phone and my goal and my job is to get through this call and take care of the business I need to take care of. Now, if my goal is to get someone scheduled or take care of the boxes and get the information I need, if that's the goal, and I tell you I'm caring, well, great. I'm caring while I'm making this call all about us and our business needs and getting people on the schedule and those things I have to do, and then checking some boxes about the goals. It's the you versus me test. I do this on all the calls. So when I sit down to listen to a call, I just write down the 5 steps, right? The 5-step process. And that 5-step process was put together in the way to make sure you, from the second you pick the phone up, the intent is to make sure they understand this call is about them, you. Right? Acknowledgement is number one. That is about you. I acknowledge you and the things you just said to me. Saying, great, I can help you is not acknowledgement. If they say their name and you don't repeat their name back, that's not acknowledgement. Even tell me more is not acknowledgement, right? It's interesting. People love to say, well, yeah, tell me your story. And I'm like, but what are you going to do with that info? What came before it? What came after it? How do you use that info? Right? Because I hear it hashed up all the time. So this you versus me thing, that person has to hang up the phone and say, that was all about me. And when I get to the end of the call and I look to see if people have worked their way through the 5-step process, and it's a 5-step process to be done in order, because when it's done in order, I can make the whole call about you. 5 minutes or 18 minutes, I can make the whole call about you. I can present everything in a manner that this call is about you. So this you versus me test, right? I listen to the call and I go through this and I take my notes and then I turn it off and then I say you versus me, because I'm here to tell you, my friends, when the call is more about you, the caller, rather than me, the person who believes they care, who has business to take care of, your practice will win. That will lead to more arrives and pays. That will lead to people not hanging up and calling somewhere else. It's so funny. I've had it happen to me when I was answering the phone. It happens to other people. Oh, that call went great. They arrived? No. I'm like, what are you judging great calls by? If you make it all about them, by the way, me, I'm the business answering the phone. If I make it all about you, then at the end of the call, you can make a choice and make a decision based on what's best for you, the caller. And at times that will be a no, I don't want to schedule, or no, this isn't going to work for me. And you're going to hear that, and you're going to hear that tone. The more you make it about them, the more the trust and the honesty will appear. The more you make it about them, you, and what they want going through this 5-step process, the more likely you will only get people on the schedule who will arrive and pay, meaning your first visit arrival rate will go up. Your first visit arrivals, your first visit arrival no-shows or cancels will go down. You will also get a greater conversion to agreed upon plans of care if I make it more about you rather than me. And I listen to these calls, right? And this is the problem with scripted calls, right? I said 5-step process. It's not a script. When you hand someone a script, they will check the boxes and read the script 100% of the time. If you give someone the 5-step process and say, we need these 5 things in this order, go, you're going to, by default, fall into more of a conversation. A conversation also, if you're acknowledging what I'm saying during this call and you're saying things back to me and you're telling me you're going to schedule me with an expert because of reason A, B, and C, that's all about me. And that's a conversation. I listen to these calls that go 15 minutes and we get to the end of it and it feels interesting. It's like, wow, there was a lot of sharing, but there wasn't a lot of sharing related to what the person called for. It's always funny to get off a 15-minute call and go, man, they know everything about your business. They know everything about your providers, their services, their treatments, right? They know everything about the people you've taken care of. I go, what do they need from you? What are their goals? Well, they have low back pain. I'm like, that's not a goal. So you shared all these treatments and services. You've told them how you helped all these low back pain people. By the way, when I say, and by the way, this is a step in the process, you must give people social proof. Here's the kicker everybody leaves out. When I give you social proof by saying, oh, Jerry, so sorry to hear about your low back pain, right? Yet I'm glad you called us because, right, our experts here have helped a lot of people with low back pain. That's the minimal requirement. If I then don't go into how the experts can help you specifically, then I'm not talking to you. That's what's so funny. We've helped a lot of people with low back pain. Why didn't they schedule? I'm like, because they don't know how you can help them. So the immediate step after social proof is individual proof. Right? So you say that at the beginning, and then later you mention how their expert, the person you're going to get them scheduled with, has helped a lot of people with low back pain, just like you. Get back to A, B, and C. And you know what? They're helping people just like you right now. Boom. Now that's all about me. You referenced my goals and you told them they're helping people just like me who want to get back to the gym and want to be pain-free in the morning. That's me. Speaking globally, talking about, are you familiar with physical therapy? Are you familiar with chiropractic? Are you familiar with osteopathy? Let me tell you all about that. Is a waste of time. You don't need to do that work. That's called overselling. Talking generally about what you do is overselling. It's never required. Never. If you have the problem to be solved by that person, you can make what you can deliver specifically to them. Then you don't speak generally. Let me tell you how we can help you, Jerry. Not, are you familiar with our services and treatments? Let me list them all for you and give this universal description about it. That's rarely going to turn in, right? Deliver that person that will arrive and pay. Remember, this first phone call is about increasing the likelihood of arrival. So we've got to check all the boxes every time. The process needs to be followed 100% of the time. And the process is built around making the conversation around you, the caller, not me, the business. And the art of this magical selling is I can get all the information, business information I need under the context of, this is what I need from you to do this next step. Right? If someone calls and says they need to schedule, I'm going to tell them, great, Jerry, I can help you get scheduled. I want to make sure that we are the best fit for you. I want to make sure I have an expert for you. And then if we both agree upon that, I'll definitely get you on the schedule. So, Jerry, in order to get you entered into our scheduling software, I'd like to collect 5 pieces of data from you. Would that be okay? So that when we determine it's time to schedule, I can just pull the schedule up. Will that work for you? Yes. Now getting name, date of birth, all that shit has context around you and achieving the goal of wanting to get scheduled. Doesn't sound like a big deal? It is, because you're going to keep building on that, right? Those are the things that make this conversation about you and not me. Hi, my name's Jerry. I want to get scheduled for physical therapy. I have low back pain. Oh, okay. Can I get your date of birth? I'm like, wow. Can I get your phone number? Wow. That's all you. That's all business. That's all business. Has nothing to do with me, the caller, because you didn't give me any context. I said I had low back pain and wanted to get scheduled. I hear this all the time. And these are the clinics that have first visit arrival issues. Remember, the goal here is control the process, not the outcome. I don't want people scheduled. I want people who arrive and pay. The people who arrive and pay say that this is a good fit for me. They can serve me. They can meet my goals. And until I ask you your goals and ask you your expectations, I can't tell you if we can meet them. If I talk globally about low back pain, you hang up the phone and go, sounds like they help a lot of people. I wonder if they can help me. I hear the end of those phone calls. I hear people hanging up going, holy shit, that person has no idea what you can do for them. And I love doing that. Again, after an 18-minute phone call. So what are their goals? What are they arriving for? Again, this is the why will they arrive? So again, this all flows back. All these examples I'm giving you is this you versus me thing. So what I'd highly recommend you do here, make this very actionable, is go back through your intake form. And if you just got someone with check boxes about getting address and insurance information and goals, by the way, asking someone their goals and never referring back to them is not about them. That happens a lot. If you schedule someone for physical therapy, that has zero to do about them. Right? So all this stuff starts to flow down. So I want you to go back through that intake sheet and just see, how can we ask this in a manner? How can we build the thing? Again, that 5-step process I talked about, that 5-step intake process, it builds on itself. The sooner I learn the goals, the problem you want solved, and your expectations, the more I can just keep referring to them to make this whole call about you, right? That's where the acknowledgement starts. Step 1 is acknowledgement. Step 2 is to get their goals and their expectations. The sooner you do those 3 things, the sooner they know this call is about them, and the sooner you can continue to make the call about them. So go back through your intake process and look at how you can restructure it. It's funny. People always say, oh, you bring in a script with you. I'm like, no, you guys have an intake process. We're going to build it to make the conversation about them so we can get the things we need to make sure they arrive and pay, while at the same time you can get the things you need to conduct your business. But we're going to focus on the you part. And when you're collecting the parts you need for the business, we're going to make sure they know it's in context of them. The calls I listen to, man, where they're just checking off, they're the dirtiest calls. And those are the people that have no show cancel problems. By the way, you take someone through that process, they agree to arrive and they do arrive, they're the one that's dropped off. They call back to cancel all their appointments after visit 2. Wasn't really what I thought it was. Because they had no idea, because you never told them how you were going to serve them. You never told them why the expert was the right fit for them. All right. So the single biggest problem I'm hearing on these calls is it's about me, the business, and not you, the caller. We've got to tie this stuff back to people. This isn't made up stuff, right? I hear this consistently. This flows downstream. No show cancel first arrivals, right? Agreed upon plans of care. So if you're an in-network clinic, you and I both know, but everybody shows up. I'm like, you got a churn rate, you got a drop-off rate and a cancel rate like nobody else. And then the other clinics are going, well, I just got to get people to show up. I got an arrival problem. I'm like, yeah, you do. The other clinic's going, I got a follow through problem. Yeah, you do. They both are solved with the same exact solution. Been doing this long enough. I've been listening to enough calls. I've made enough secret callers. seeing the downstream impact in my own business, in the clinics I've helped. Cancel rates decrease, no shows decrease, agreed upon and completed plans of care go up. By doing what? Starting to build this world around you and not me from the first phone call. Trust, decrease fear, doubt, and uncertainty. When you're checking boxes, I call with uncertainty. You check all these boxes, you do all those things. My uncertainty level never changed. So I call the next place. Maybe I call to cancel, maybe I don't. Right? You versus me. So take your script, go through it, look through it. How can I restructure this, right? If someone tells you their goals, you must keep reiterating them. You must reference them. If someone tells you their expectations, it is baffling to me. Nobody is asking expectations, which means there are a handful of people out there. That is the single, no, it's not the single most valuable. There is no single most valuable. If you do this approach this way, all of it together is the freaking bomb that's going to do it. Because if you only get expectations and you don't do this other shit, ain't going to matter. If you only get goals, if you only sell an expert, if you don't tell them what they need are going to get for their time, money, and energy, right? This is about a flow of information, a flow of a conversation. So by the end of it, they hang up and go, wow, that was all about me. I don't need to call anywhere else. I called the right place. I'm glad I found them. That's what you're looking for at the end of this call. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's not being done the majority of places. And I just gave you the solution. So take that forward, right? Today is all right. We got 2 weeks left in December. These are changes to be made now. These are things you should have been doing 6 months ago, 9 months ago, a year ago. And until you change this, you're not going to see the downstream impact. So if your goal going into 2022 is to decrease cancels and no-shows and drop-offs, but you're not fixing the first phone call, don't worry about downstream. I'm telling you, the impact is all upstream. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to do a big recap, right? I'm going to do a recap on the next one, just so you all know. So if you're watching these out of order, whatever, but I'm going to do an end of year recap. I'm going to do the big things I have found with all my clients, what problems my clients brought to me and what brought them the success afterwards. And I'm going to tell you what's the biggest problems facing your clinic and the clinics out there and how, and what, sorry, not how, what you need to address. Cheers all.